There was a point in time when I kind of understood the pivot from the US to China. It made kind of sense logistically because we are in Asia. It made kind of sense because of where we are in Asia. We're kind of like the gateway to Asia. Like the US has always used us in order to get to the rest of Asia, right? And we were strategic in that sense that that's why they had military bases here and whatnot. So I think we understood the value that we had, and maybe the States was undervaluing the Philippines in terms of in that way. So kind of like I was thinking to myself, baka this isn't going to be a bad thing. Baka. And then you start seeing medyo abuso din eh. Medyo abuso din yung ginagawa nila eh. So parang it's not just, had it been like a smoother transition, had there not been a lot of this, like our islands really still belong to us and not become military bases for China. Parang you could have, yeah, there would have still been pushback because it's still something different, right? It's still China, US. I think most people would still choose US.
Well,
um
I,
go
I
go
think it, I know. I think the problem is not really the fact that uh, it's not because it's China. It's because of the behavior of China that's making it difficult to
Yeah,
support this shift.
yeah, yeah,
If,
yeah.
if China was
Sure,
acting a little bit more responsibly
sure.
and not like a bully,
Yeah.
and
That's,
and our government sana naman doesn't make us look like parang they're almost trying to espouse the idea of cowardice, with the president of our country bowing down to China and telling and convincing people that wala naman tayong laban sa China, ba't pa tayo lalaban? Gusto bang mamatay tayong lahat pag magkagera? So, bakit tayo lalaban? Kaya dapat makisama lang tayo, ganun. That's the
yeah.
narrative.
But
And people
but
believe.
but let me ask you: if we went to war with China, would we survive?
Uh, how about this? There won't be a war with China.
What
China
makes
will never dare attack the Philippines. You know
why?
why?
I'm
Because
curious
we're an
why.
ally of the United States. And the United States will not allow China to take over this country. And think about that. They will never do it because even now, China having a military base here, what did the US do? Send over their aircraft carriers, the biggest ones, a battalion of them. That's not going to happen. So this whole idea of war, dude, it's antiquated. It reeks of so much fear mongering,
So
and
that's
that's the
that's
problem.
that's yeah, that's where I was getting at. So you think that it's impossible for there to be war in the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea, whatever you want to
No
call
way.
it.
They're not going to do it
Uh,
that way because China understands that the moment they do that, act unilaterally and do something like that and invade a country, and they could have done that with Vietnam if they wanted, or
mm,
Taiwan, who's always been against them,
yeah, yeah,
fighting. And they've never done it because they're careful, because they understand the political ramifications of invading one country. And they already claim Taiwan is theirs, and they've already blocked
yeah,
Taiwan in terms of being declared as a country,
yeah,
independent country. They've blocked it on so many fronts, and yet they've never attacked it when they could.
yeah.
So that alone tells me that they'll never do it, because when they do that, they will be cut off from the rest of the world, and there will be economic sanctions that's going to bring them back down to the depressed era that they were before they became a superpower.
I understand where you're coming from in that sense. I'm
So,
wondering. I'm wondering though, like because these are different times now. No, these are we're living in a time that we've never really experienced before.
mhm.
Is it possible that there's some sort of desperation move from anybody? Because you see that China is being looked at now under a microscope by various countries, not just the United
Yes,
States, not just right. So
right.
Germany's looking at them. Other countries in Europe are as well, pointing the blame of this pandemic to them. Uh, and of course, the
Started by
President
Trump,
Trump,
by the way. It
yeah,
started by
President
Trump.
Yeah, so Trump was the spirit, the leader of that whole thing, you know. So parang I wonder if out of desperation, there's something, shit could hit the fan.
Yeah, I like that. I like that that music you had. And you know what? I think this pandemic is going to cause a global war. Will it be a military war? I don't know. Maybe not. It could be an economic war. But knowing how Trump is, there's a possibility it could be a military war
Hmm.
because right now he is trying to trump up a lot of support regarding his theory that China intentionally created this virus, and other
Yeah.
countries are starting to want to investigate this, and China is refusing to allow anyone to investigate it, saying that it's a conspiracy theory. So the two sides are now like having a problem, and as much as I think China has a lot of problems when it comes to the way they handle their own citizens and the way they manage things and the way they run things, and the way they bully countries.
Yeah.
I think Trump is their that's their in Tagalog katapat,
Mm.
as crazy and willing to fucking do anything. And I think if Trump gets elected again, or even before the elections, oh my God, if something happens, wow,
Yeah.
it's gonna be bad. You think this is bad now? We could go into a real
Well,
depression,
right?
economic depression.
There was already the trade war happening. I mean, there was in the beginning of 2020, there was a threat of war already.
Oh
Be-
yes,
be- before the pandemic, before coronavirus, the COVID-19. So it actually kind of paused it because it was right there. It was
oh, yeah.
when was that? January, February. It was right there. Like it was possible already. It's like, oh shit, this thing's
Right.
gonna really happen. And then the pandemic, this whole thing happened and it affected the rest of the world and shift focus na naman.
Sure,
So
but this pandemic also added more fuel
yeah,
to the
but pero
fire.
nag-pause lang.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nag-pause lang, and then while naka-pause, the more fire the more kerosene was being thrown into the fire, parang ganyan.
And
Pinafan
then
yung flame.
yeah, and then boom, it's just gonna.
Oh,
This is about to explode into something that we may have never seen in our lifetime, and it's going to be scary. And at the same time, wow, I hope not, but
yeah.
I am. If I were a betting person, I would bet that something will happen in the next couple of years with regards to all the issues that already are problematic with China. How many times the U.S. has so many aircraft carriers within the South China Sea patrolling, and they've sent B-52 bombers already as
Yeah.
well, flying over to see what China was going to do. They've tested this. They've tested China's resolve. They've flown over international waters in the South China Sea, and then China actually warned them to turn back. And then they said, "This is the U.S. whatever B-52 bomber carrying a nuclear bomb. Sorry, we are going through our course. This is international
Oh,
waters." And then China was like, "Okay." So this. I think China is acting like a bully, and then you have the U.S. under Trump, who's now saying, "Sige, push that button, push me." Look what they did to Iran.
yeah.
That's crazy
But
what they did to Iran. That's just absolutely insane. If they could do that to Iran, I mean, the China. I mean, China is a different story altogether. But I, I wouldn't take it past Trump to go to do that.
if you were to choose a side in right, who would you side with?
Wait. Are we assuming Trump president?
Yeah, Trump president.
Oh my God, Lord. Okay, I still choose the U.S. even with Trump as the president, just because the institutions of the United States, the democratic institutions, are much stronger than China. That's the only reason. And I believe that Congress and Senate as much as it's Republican, I believe that there are certain actions that Trump still cannot take, that if he crossed the line, that even his own party will disown him. And I think they're already a little bit worried about where he was going with the pandemic and how he's handling it, that some Republicans are already a little bit, they're very concerned, to say the least. So in that sense, US would still be the smarter choice compared to China right now. China is hard to trust, unfortunately. So there, who would you pick?
Well, I have no opinion as far as, because I've never lived in China. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about it.
Listen. You can't ask me that question and make me pick, and then now you're gonna tell me. Not to pick. By the way,
It's not my fault. It's not my fault you fell for it.
With the limited information you and me have, Gino, every topic we talk about, we have limited information.
Okay, I'll no, because of no. The reason why I said that, the reason why I started saying that is because the only choice I really have to make is still the States, because that's the only other country that I've lived in for a longer period of time. I mean, Hong Kong I lived in for a year, but that's not really considered. That's not the same thing. In fact, they have their own problems there with China. So it's not technically, yes, it should be China, but it really isn't, right? It doesn't feel like it. So my only point of comparison is me living when I was living in the States, and so that would still be my choice because that's the only one I know.